You're watching WHPS, Highland Park, Detroit.
FM 88.1 WHPR, Highland Park.
WVIE 107.3 FM Charlotte, Amalia, Virgin Islands.
The views and opinions expressed on the following show are not necessarily the views and opinions of WHPS, its affiliates, management, or sponsors.
It's that time, y'all. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. Yeah, it's straight talk with Valerie. Come on. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. Yeah, it's straight talk with Valerie. Come on. It's straight talk with Valerie. It's straight talk with Valerie. Come on. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. It's straight talk with Valerie. Come on. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. It's straight talk with Valerie. Come on. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. It's straight talk with Valerie. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. It's straight talk with Valerie. Come on. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. It's straight talk with Valerie. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. It's straight talk with Valerie. Come on.
What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? It's been a little bit of a hiatus for us. We took the portion of May off to just get a little rest and gear up to bring you on to the new season of the real Black Coffee, No Sugar, No Cream, Straight Talk with Valerie. And I have some co-hosts with me tonight. I have the producer of the show, Trisha Duckworth. Say what's up.
What's up, Detroit? Oh my goodness, it's so good to be back with you, Miss Valerie. Thank you so much again for having us on.
All righty. And last but never least, the coolest, colorless pastor that I know, Mr. Mike Robinson. Say what's up to everybody, Mike.
Hey, how you doing? The city, great city, wonderful city of Detroit, Michigan. And I wanted to thank God for giving me a awesome privilege to hang out with the wonderful host of this show, Trisha Duckworth, and the wonderful Miss Valerie Bonner Kelly. I'm just so grateful and thankful for allowing me to be a part of Black Coffee, No Sugar, No Cream.
We are equally honored to have you. You know, there were no mistakes made when we were all assembled together. This is a very powerful trilogy that encompasses everything that is needed to do the work that we are going to talk about tonight. What we're going to talk about is harm reduction. Now, a lot of you might think, what is harm reduction? So what I'm going to do is go into a brief video that's going to explain to you what harm reduction is, and we will go from there.
You ready?
Personally, for me, harm reduction is important because I watched my brother use drugs for years and ultimately overdose and die.
Harm reduction is important to me because it means keeping my family safe.
I believe that it also includes therapeutic rather than punitive drug policies.
I have a lot of family drug use, and it was constant fights, bitterness, anger.
I was lucky enough to make it when I had some times of struggle.
In my world, I believe to change someone else's life is to change their narrative.
And with harm reduction, I've learned not to have all that anger, to be more compassionate, to not judge anybody and be so critical.
Harm reduction gave me a sense of family, sense of belonging, a place where I was accepted just as I was, just as I am.
As a physician, I believe in harm reduction because I'm sick and tired of my patients having to die.
I lost my daughter to the disease of addiction.
May all beings be free, and may my work contribute to that freedom.
It's important for you to find your own healing, to find your own path.
It's about civil rights, it's about public health.
Helping people regardless of the choices they make in life.
We don't judge people.
I believe that the people themselves are the experts on their own lives.
My harm reduction truth is that I was a skeptic, and even as a person who injected drugs.
I believe that harm reduction
is a movement that is never going to stop.
That advocates for human rights, that advocates for humanity, that advocates for being a whole human being and respect.
Harm reduction works because it was created for and by people who use drugs.
It's not a radical idea. None of these concepts that people are complaining about and think are radical are radical. They're life-saving, common sense things.
I believe that harm reduction is the absolute opposite of tough love.
Harm reduction asks us to look at people as full human beings and recognize their full humanity, and that is challenging because we live within systems and structures that every day require us to do the contrary, to stigmatize and to dehumanize people.
When I was looking to build a relationship with my father, there were so many people who told me to forget about it, to wait, and for me, I lost the opportunity.
My boy Kenny, he was only 25 years old, died of an overdose. He was a peer educator just like me.
The truth about harm reduction is that the bigger our movement grows, we run the risk of losing the essence of harm reduction.
My truth about harm reduction is that it is the answer to most of life's problems. The hard part about having that skill and knowing that that's true is actually doing it.
Yeah, I believe that people really do want to be healthy and well.
I believe the war on drugs is a war on people.
Harm reduction has helped me reunite with my family and most importantly with myself.
Harm reduction is part of my life. Harm reduction saved me.
I believe harm reduction is just another way of saying that I care about you.
In my mind, harm reduction is the real thing, and that is love. And that's what I try to do each time I step on the street, to deal in love and safety.
I feel like our community has been so stigmatized and pushed down and pushed out and pushed away that people forget that we're not even just like them, we are them. We are people. We are your neighbor, we are your son, we are your friend from college.
Harm reduction is rehumanizing, harm reduction is love, harm reduction is kindness, harm reduction is helping, harm reduction isn't about me, it's not just about you, it's about us.
So, you just looked at an overview of harm reduction, and I want to thank one of our collaborative partners, Tanagra and the National Harm Reduction Coalition out of Los Angeles, California, for allowing us to use that footage because it definitely depicts all walks of life and all different types of harm reduction aspects. SOAR, which I am the executive director of and founder, was approached by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services about starting a harm reduction program. There are 43 cities in Wayne County. Only one, the city of Detroit, had a harm reduction syringe service program. So after going over things with my program director, Trisha Duckworth, and thinking things through, we decided to join forces with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services for the Syringe Service Program, primarily to fight stigma, to educate people on harm reduction, to infuse harm reduction with racial justice, to infuse harm reduction with spirituality, to end the overdose epidemic. Those were the primary reasons for us joining forces in collaboration with them. One thing I want to say before we get into this discussion with Pastor Mike and Trisha is this. Harm reduction does not include using abstinence as an option. I'm going to say it again. Harm reduction does not include using abstinence as an option. Next, I want to say harm reduction is built on the premise that the individuals who are using substances are treated with respect, understanding that they have pride, they have dignity, they are someone's son, they are someone's daughter, it is someone's mother or father. It is a member of this community. And for the people who look at things through a spiritual lens, they too are one of God's children. We all are. We all have fallen short of what they call the glory. We all have fallen short of that. So Trisha, how would you answer the question if someone asked you, doesn't harm reduction programs enable people to use drugs and continue to be an addict?
Well, as a matter of fact, we've heard that, right? We've heard that. But when it comes to addiction, no one needs anyone's encouragement to do it. If someone is in that place, in that broken place, that is where they are, right? And that is something that you don't encourage, it just is that's one of those things. It just is what it is, right? And if it is what it is, why not minister to the broken? Why not help keep people safe? It's a mindset thing, right? Because we think that, well, you're just perpetuating somebody's use, or no, what's being done is people are being saved, lives are being saved, people's lives are also being impacted, and I can't wait to talk about that. But it's not what everyone looks at it as first glance. You got to look beyond the surface, and unfortunately people don't do that because we place judgment like that on people, and then we dismiss them, and we miss the opportunity to serve in that moment. And see, this type of program, it meets people where they are. That's a ministry like no other. And that is, I believe, where we can see the best results.
That's the perfect segue into what I was going to ask Pastor Mike. So, Pastor Mike, what does it mean to meet someone where they're at, in your perspective?
I think that's a great question. First and foremost, I think what we don't discuss is that we all have some kind of addiction to some bad habit. And I think that includes everyone on the face of this earth. The sad part about it is that some, it appeared to be worse than others because we can see some with the naked eye and most people can hide theirs. And you don't really know what their addiction is. But I think what we have the opportunity to do is the exact same thing that Jesus Christ did. He was moved with compassion.
the word compassion is a very powerful word, because what compassion is, it means I'm willing to do everything in my power to help alleviate your pain. And that's showing much concern. So that's meeting them where they are versus expecting these people to get to a place or a standard where they're having problems at. I want to meet you right here at ground zero. And if I can meet you there, then I could be a help. Last but not least, I believe you cannot help nobody if you don't understand their circumstance. And that is the problem that a lot of people go through. They cannot understand what the person is going through. So you cannot help that person. You only can condemn something that you don't understand. And I really appreciate you as well as Trisha, because you have blessed me in a tremendous way, because you have showed me that you understand where these people are and you're willing to meet them right in the condition where they are, instead of expecting them to be something that they cannot be at this particular time of their life.
Thank you. Those two questions were the prelude to the overview of our program, because you see, we're not enabling anyone by helping them. They're going to get high if they want to, for as long as they want to, and as long as they need to, because you see, it's really not a need. It's some trauma and a bunch of underlying things behind each and every person we met is a story. So if you see someone struggling on the street and looking like they have an addiction, don't ever say, what's wrong with them? Ask, what happened to them? Because something happened in their life that caused them to be where they are at this moment. So, Marquise, take us to the overview of the SOAR Harm Reduction Program. SOAR's Harm Reduction Program recognizes that there are many stages of change, and we can support people at any stage where they are at. Harm reduction is an evidence-based public health approach that uses practical strategies to reduce the harmful consequences associated with certain high-risk behaviors. With the aim of meeting people where they are, SOAR provides a wide array of harm reduction services and support, including community and peer education, client advocacy, and mobile outreach.
Boots on the ground. We're coming for your boots on the ground. We're coming for your boots on the ground. We're here for your boots on the ground. We're here for your boots on the ground. We heal for your boots on the ground. We deal for your boots on the ground. We real for your boots on the ground. We're here for you.
Each week, the Boots on the Ground outreach team drives and visits predetermined areas where sex workers and those who use drugs are usually based. The outreach team engages with the client and provides the client with a brief survey to see what services they are in need of. If the client chooses to partake in our services, they are then enrolled into the program. Their enrollment is quick and simple. The client is asked 3 questions: the first initial of their first name, the month of their birth, and the first initial of their mother's first name. No other identifiable information is requested to enroll the client in the program and create their harm reduction program identification card. The outreach team asks the client what supplies or needs they have and provides them with syringes, condoms, and other harm reduction materials. SOAR's Boots on the Ground team also provides referrals and linkages to health and social services, case management, and counseling. SOAR's Boots on the Ground outreach has a faith and harm reduction component. Called to Care Harm Reduction Ministries is a place where you can show up and exist as you are. There's no expectation for anyone to be anything other than themselves. This space offers spiritual inspiration in various forms for the benefit and uplifting of one's soul. We are not in the business of forcing transformation on anyone. Rather, we will foster an environment that allows transformation to take place. Holistically helping others is our mission. SOAR's outreach and harm reduction services are funded through a grant from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. As an organization, SOAR is continuing to grow and is working to expand and go beyond their outreach services by establishing a center which will offer other harm reduction services on site. SOAR's harm reduction program will provide a strong voice that represents the needs and priorities of people who use drugs. We will be a respected partner with our stakeholders and an advocate for consumers. We are a strong and responsive organization, accountable to our funders, the community, and our clients, and are able to demonstrate our commitment to providing quality, evidence-based harm reduction services. Heard an overview of the harm reduction services that we are providing, but let's put a little bit more history behind it, because I already told you that we were partnering with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services on this project, but we are doing the project in the City of Inkster. I approached Mayor Patrick Wimberly and discussed the harm reduction concept with him, primarily from a public health standpoint. There are a lot of Hep C cases, HIV cases, overdoses, etc., happening in the City of Inkster and surrounding cities. Mayor Wimberly embraced the idea right away, and at that point connected me with Chief Riley of the Inkster Police Department. We had a conversation. He understood it and connected with it right away. There was only one barrier, and that barrier was the Inkster City Paraphernalia Ordinance was not friendly to a program such as this. They went to work right away, met with City Council, the City Attorney, and had the ordinance revised so that it allows a program such as SOAR, who is working with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, a state agency, to operate in the City of Inkster. So again, you have to be a participant. You do not have to live in the City of Inkster, but you have to be a participant. We are in the City of Inkster every Wednesday from 4 to 7, boots on the ground. From 4 to 6 is what I want to call our secular distribution. That means individuals can come get clean needles, cookers, condoms, lube. We even pass out food, blankets, toiletries, and things of that nature if we have them on deck. From 6 to 7 p.m. is when the Call to Care ministry begins, and we will let you know a little bit later in the second segment of the show how Call to Care ministries came to fruition. But right now, that's how Boots on the Ground got started. And that's how we landed in the City of Inkster, because that's my hometown. And as you know, every chance I get to go back there to help, that's what I'm going to do. So let's do a quick recap of week 1 of Boots on the Ground. First of all, there was torrential rain. It was raining like my grandmother used to say, cats and dogs. It was raining. We had a tent, but it didn't have side walls, so we're all huddling under there. But it hit me in my spirit to say, you cannot shut down. You must endure the time you designated to be out here, because you see, there you can go home, redo your hair, change your clothes, and get warm and dry. But it's people who don't have that choice. They don't have that option. They have to endure rain, snow, sleet, sun, or shine. So I know that you can endure 3 hours. So we did. And it was a beautiful experience. Trisha, would you like to reflect and share on that day last Wednesday, our experience?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I gotta try not to be too long-winded with this, and just give me a thumbs up if I go too long. You're like, be quiet. A very slightly difficult time turned out to be something that was so amazing. Just the people that we connected with, their willingness to answer questions, like, and to talk about wanting help for certain things, to learn some of their stories. Like, I'm reflecting back. Can I share a story? I'm not saying a name.
Yeah, you can share a story. Right? That's fine.
So I remember there was a gentleman, I could just cry thinking about it. He said that he had been clean for so long and his wife died. Mm-hmm. And he just couldn't take it. And he began to use again. And, for me in that moment, it was a joy to be serving, an honor and a privilege to be serving them. But then it made me sad, because I think about all of the people that won't serve them. Yes. Like the scriptures say, the least of these, the least of these are the ones that Christ is concerned about the most. And these are the people. And I would say, because I just had this conversation, I was sitting at a table yesterday having lunch, and we were talking about social workers. I'm ashamed of the social work profession, because as a profession, we won't get down and lowly with people. Not all, let me give that disclaimer. But there are a lot of social workers that want people to come up to their level where they're at and help people from there. But that's not true social work. True social work is getting in the trenches and meeting people where they are and showering a love on people like they have never known before. It's our job. It's our duty. It's in our core values as social workers, but we do not do that. But the joy in that moment for me, just seeing people happy to become involved and share their stories and just become so open. It's almost like you're creating a big family of people that you will see over and over again. I'm gonna be quiet. It changed my life. In that moment, it was very, very life-changing for me.
I agree. I was on an engagement meeting with Brandon Hoole, Seth Eccles, and Mary Miller, and a few other people who are doing this program. And when I started to share about the one woman who was there and said she had children and she wanted to be able to see her children, I just broke down. I broke down in that moment, because I was happy to be there. I was grateful that that is not my life circumstance. It's not like I've never had cocaine in my body, liquor in my body, weed in my body. I've never injected anything, but I've been high. That could have been me. And still could be. I don't know what life's journey is going to take me later. It's by God's grace that somebody was praying for me when I didn't know how to pray for myself, that I never ended up in that position. That's the only reason. I also could have been dead, dating drug dealers, hanging out with family that was drug dealers. Come on now. I could have been incarcerated, riding around with my drug dealer boyfriend in Porsches, Corvettes, all kind of cars, and sometimes be with him when he would go make a drop. I'm young. I'm hanging. All it would have taken was one traffic stop for my whole life to be different. So I was reflecting back saying, wow, you know that old saying, you dodged a bullet, I dodged a machine gun. But I'm grateful. Mike, would you share your experience from last week?
Last week was indeed a very touching. It was an experience that I had. I've been pastoring for over 15 years, and for one time I felt like I really gave back to the community by just help serving the community. And here's a point. Years ago, I was riding to school. I would drive the school bus. As I would drive the school bus, there were times that I had to drive the shorter bus, and that's where the special need children was on the short bus. So when people joke and come up with these little derogatory statements dealing with you riding the short bus, well, I really felt that, so it's no longer a joke to me. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that there are certain special need children that they wear helmets. Mm-hmm. And the reason they wear the helmet, it don't eliminate the fact that they had struggling with special needs, but it do help them to prevent something else that can happen to them. And that's what I saw when we were there last Wednesday. Giving someone a clean needle, giving someone Narcan, it may not prevent them from using drugs, but it can prevent something else that's detrimental that can happen to them. Mm-hmm. So it allowed me to really feel a part of help saving, help changing a life, because the people, if I saw nothing else last Wednesday, I saw the fact that the people appreciated the fact that someone showed them some kind of love, some kind of compassion. And that's what touched me the most, because they saw that there were a group of people that showed them something that other people do not show them on a daily. So that was the greatest blessing out of everything last Wednesday. And yes, it was cold. Yes, it was raining. Yes, it was somewhat windy. But in the midst of it all, yes, I felt that I had an opportunity to be a blessing to somebody that other people oftentimes look over and step by.
Yeah. It was a wonderful experience. I am so glad to be one of the chosen ones in two regards, secular and spiritually, to be able to execute this program and be on the ground, boots on the ground, and get firsthand experience. And you're right. Those participants were talking to us like they knew us for a long time. One guy even said, you know what, if it wasn't COVID, I'll give you a hug. I said, you know what, brother, I got a mask on and everything else. I'll still give you a hug. You know why? Because I did not want to shun him in that moment. It was amazing. Amazing. And when the two people came and prayed with us and then asked for prayer, like, could you please pray for my brother too, and start making prayer requests, you know, it wasn't like they was doing us a favor. First, I'm like, okay, they came back. That's cool. Maybe they just gonna stand in like, okay, we're gonna be nice to them, you know, because they were nice to us. I didn't know what to think, but they really got into it and started making requests like, hey, can you pray for my brother? Can you do, you know, I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
Street ministry at its finest. Coming outside of the four walls and doing the real work.
You know what, Valerie? I think about when we were out there a couple weeks ago too. We just was out there scouting the site and still ran up on some people that needed help. And as a matter of fact, it just jumped in our spirit to get out the car and start talking to people. So we started talking. We was telling about Narcan and all that. And the guy said, "Oh my God, please give me some Narcan." He said, "My girlfriend OD'd. She's in the store." He said, "My girlfriend OD'd and was in the hospital. We just got her out of the hospital." And he pointed to the guy next to him. He said, "And this guy right here, man, they scare me. They're always ODing." He said, "Oh my God, this Narcan, I need a Narcan." He was so excited to get it. Out the store walks the girl. She had just gotten out of the hospital, and we were able to give them some Narcan. And as a matter of fact, we stood there, had prayer with them in that moment. I mean, we linked up arm with arm with people. See, that's the thing. Like, nobody wants to get down and dirty, And we're so self-righteous and so uppity, and we don't understand, there's no way for you to lock arm in arm with somebody unless your neck's close to them. You understand what I'm saying? It's no way for me to grab you and pull you up if I don't get down there with you, because if I grab you from up here, I'm going to hurt my back, right? You got to get down. You got to lower yourself. You got to humble yourself to do this kind of work.
Yes. And what I will say, just for clarity, our program is 3 hours for now, from 4 to 7. From 4 to 6 is just a regular harm reduction program with no spiritual components. I don't want anyone to feel like you have to be spiritual or get prayer or anything like that to participate. It's just from 6 to 7. We do have that opportunity to do spiritual outreach and counseling and guidance with those individuals. And we'll tell you how we got there. That's in the next segment. But I just won't give anything for that experience, to the degree I'm so excited about this Wednesday to go back out there again. And if we had 6 people come in the rain, they're going to go tell their friends, like, somebody treated us with respect. Somebody treated us with dignity. We could walk away and hold our heads up. We don't have to feel like we are menace to society. They understand that this is an issue that we're dealing with, and this is how I cope. And that I get to do this as long as I want to. They're not going to force me into treatment. They're not going to force me to do anything. But they're going to show me love, respect. I get my supplies. We had snacks. We had toiletries. We had blankets. We had socks. We had all of that filled with backpacks. So if you're watching this live and you are in need of this service, don't be ashamed. It's anonymous. You can come, enroll. We ask you those 3 questions. The first letter of your first name, your month of birth, and the first letter of your mother's first name. That's it. Now, if you want additional services, referrals to mental health places, things of that nature, we will need a little bit more information from you. But all we want to know are those things, your consumption patterns. We need to know your consumption patterns so we know what to give you. I have to order supplies and keep up with the supplies that are needed. And by us being a new program, we don't necessarily know quantities. So when we ask about usage patterns, that's so we know how much. If somebody is using 20 needles a day and we won't see them till next week, and we don't want them sharing or reusing needles, then that means we need to give them 20 times 7, right? So that's why we ask those questions. Nothing more, nothing less. So we're going to move into a break. And we're going to listen to As a Black Man, because this is Black Music Month. And I want to celebrate my cousin Millard Thomas Jr., who is a producer and a musician in Tennessee. The majority of the music that you hear on this show is produced by Millard. Even the entrance and the outro to this show was produced by my cousin, Millard Thomas Jr. So you're listening to The Real Black Coffee, No Sugar, No Cream, Straight Talk with Valerie. I have on here with me Trisha Duckworth and Pastor Mike. We will be coming right back at you after we listen to As a Black Man.
I'm just trying to do the best that I can as a strong black man. Yeah. Here I stand as a strong black man, having done all I can to please my fellow man. I don't understand why that knife is in your hand. After doing all I can as a strong black man, I'm gonna take my stand as a black man. I will do the best that I can as a black man. I stand on my own as a black man. I'm gonna sing my song. Oh, this is me. So hear my plea. I'm a young black man, down on my knees. I say this world is wrong, and we don't have too long. I'm gonna take this stand as a strong black man. I feel the rain falling down on me. If you could see what's on my mind, oh, you will see. Everyone would be more kind. Everyone would be happy. I'm gonna keep on my goal. I won't let it go. As a black man, gonna take my stand. As a black man, I'ma do the best that I can. Oh, as a black man, I stand on my as a black man, I'm gonna sing my song. It's that time, y'all. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. Yeah, it's straight talk with Valerie. Come on. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. Yeah, it's straight talk with Valerie. Come on. It's straight talk with Valerie. It's straight talk with Valerie. Come on. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. It's straight talk with Valerie. Come on. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream.
listening to Black Coffee, No Sugar, No Cream. Tonight's show begins a new season. Not just a new season for the Black Coffee broadcast, but a new season in our lives. What we have the opportunity to do by operating a syringe service harm reduction program in the city of Inkster. I don't want anyone watching this live to think everything was smooth and linear. It wasn't. But I'm built for this. But I'm going to tell you that it wasn't. And we're going to get into the reason why. And it's a shame, because I would rather be telling you that the reason why it was a roller coaster was because of the ordinance change. Nope. Having to convince the mayor of the city of Inkster to embrace the program? No. Having to convince the chief and jump through some hoops with the police department? No. Having to deal with any of the city council members? No, it passed unanimously. It was the church. And I'm pissed off about it.
Me too.
So that's why I started this segment with, what the hell you talking about? Because it was so many responses that we received that made me say, what the hell you talking about? Not, what the hell are you talking about? What the hell you talking about?
Right.
That. Trisha, I'm
So
gonna
you
let you
need to roll your eyes.
Yes. Because I'm still mad as hell. But I want you to go ahead, and I'm going to let you talk from your perspective. We did have one church in the city of Inkster that we talked to partner with us. They have a food pantry called Mother's Pantry. I want to give a big shout out to Pastor Velma Overman, Christ Temple Church. And Mother's Pantry, she said, whatever you need, and not just come and get what we got off the shelf. She said, Valerie, I'm so appreciative of what you are doing and that you're coming home in the city of Inkster to do it. I want to help in any way that I can. You can order food. Let me know what it is that you want. Subs, pizza, snacks. Let me know. I got you. Everybody else? Here we go. So, Trisha, what would you like to share about that horrific experience? The one that if anybody was going to hell, these people gonna slide on in. Playing church. Need to stop. But go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Playing church. The problem is that we go to church as if it's a place and not the very essence of our being. That's the problem. And, you know, the opposition that we were met with, I'll tell you, while it was expected, it was still equally disheartening. You know, I seen a vision. I was going to be honest. I seen a vision of something that could be, and talked to a pastor about it, and they said, hell nah, you know, I'm not really, don't know if we, can do that. I don't know if it's, going to encourage people to use, but just write it up, send it to me. And then they said, well, no, we respectfully decline. I pushed back to say, hey, like, this is real ministry. And if I had this vision, I'm believing that maybe you're supposed to be a part of this. Please reconsider. Never even heard a word back. And so I don't care. You can get mad all you want, because I'm mad too. Okay. And I ain't really mad, disappointed, right? Because this person works in our profession as well. You understand what I'm saying? So how you gonna work in a profession and be a pastor? That should be double compassion and empathy, right? But no response back. And I get it. You got to do what you got to do. On to the next. We sitting in a meeting. I'm sorry. I'm telling on everybody. We sitting in a meeting and they like, okay, well, yeah, that sounds good. So what's in it for the church? So I was so proud of Valerie.
I still lit fire and brimstone on his ass.
So
but I was like,
Because while, see, Valerie, she good and saved, but her face ain't good and saved yet. So she looking like, and she was like, okay, so I don't know, besides ministering to people and saving souls, so let me bottom line it. How much do y'all want? Oh, no, it ain't, and woo, woo, woo. No, it was
Yes,
like
it
that.
was.
For you to say that, not even knowing the type of person you are anyways, you would have given them something. You would have so it just was very, very disheartening, because it allows me to see why Inkster and other areas like that are in the position that they are. Because as the body of Christ, all we want to do is close off and have church. The same damn 2 songs, offering, prayer line, spit on you forehead, grease on your forehead, and go home. Then y'all come back next week now, and it's 2 offering, and it's the song and the praise team. When are we going to operate in real ministry for real and stop sitting around each other and get out and do the real work? The world is dying all around us, but we're holding the salt of the earth, the light of the earth, and sitting around each other Sunday after Sunday doing the same thing over and over again. Now, my last thing I'm going to say is that when you do the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, they call that what? Insanity. It's called insanity. So you all are participating in insane ritual practices that are not really edifying. Some churches, let me be quiet on that. All I'm saying is this: if we're going to do and say that we want to be like Christ, well, you got to do what he did first. Christ did not close himself off of some building. If Christ was walking around on earth right now, you could catch him at the trap house.
You got it.
If Christ is walking around on earth right now, you can catch him down there with the prostitutes. And he did it back in the Bible days. What are you doing with her? She's a prostitute. What did he do? He got down, he started writing in the sand. Whichever one of y'all jokers ain't got no sin in your life, throw the first
Cast
stone.
the first stone.
Shut people up. And that's what we need to do right now in this time, is learn to close our mouths. If we don't understand real ministry, step to the side and let those of us that are not scared of people and really want to love people and do the real work of Christ, let us do that. And you slide to the side and stop trying to put barriers in our way. Because as you can see, ain't no barriers. Call to Care ministry coming at you.
That's right. That is why we have Called to Care ministry. I sat back and thought about it. I was mad as hell. I'm not going to sit up here and act like everything was all right. I was not good with that at all. Now, I will say there are a few pastors who are truly embracing the concept, but we're not in their communities yet. But they were like, hey, well, when you come, we ready. Pastor Mike, why do you think, as a pastor of a church, why do you think we were met with that type of resistance?
I believe we are met with that kind of resistance because I believe there's a large percentage of past leaders throughout this country that they follow tradition and they don't even know what real ministry is. So technically speaking, they're deceived. They think what they're doing is really the will of God. Trisha says something, I think that was very emphatical. She said, she defined insanity when you're doing the same thing expecting different results. Doing the same thing expecting different results is insanity. But what I argue with her at, I don't believe they expecting different results. I think that they're expecting the exact same results, and that's why they keep doing the same thing. I don't think they want to see no change. I don't think they want to see anything different. I really don't. There's a scripture that I hold fast to. Jesus said, love me even as I have loved you. He said, love one another, even as I have loved you. And when we really get to the point where we can love someone like Christ loved us, if we can have grace upon someone else's life, like the grace that was given upon us, if we can have mercy upon someone else's life, like he have given us mercy, I think one of the biggest problems that we face in this world today is white supremacists and the struggle that we've seen white privilege has given certain people, because of white privilege has given certain people a privilege, or more so a platform, or a podium that's higher than other people. The moment we get a podium, the moment we get a platform, the moment we can get one step further than the other, we forget about where we come from. And I think that's the biggest problem, because we're looking for an opportunity to outdo you. I'm trying to outdo Trisha. I'm trying to outdo everybody I run into. In the very moment I get a baton in my hand, baby, I'm going to run with it, because I'm going to leave you way back in the backyard somewhere, and I will never, ever come where you were. And what I will do to make people feel that I'm doing something great is talk about you, condemn you, and criticize you. And I think that's one of the major problems we run into in this world.
Wow. I agree with you 100%. And I also thought about financial aspects, because of the people scared to lose out on that money, you know, because you're big tithers, and the people who really, really, really support the church in a lot of ways may frown upon this type of ministry. But we weren't asking to even come inside. We just wanted to be on the parking lot working out of the back of our car. We wasn't even trying to come in. But I'm so glad that those things came to the forefront, because I wouldn't even send my dog over there now. Because I would be so afraid that the person would be condemned. To send someone who's a sex worker, someone who's using drugs, but just still wants some prayer and some hope and inspiration, not to be judged or anything like that, just to be loved on. I don't think they would get it in those places. They would probably be frowned upon or looked at differently or whatever. It might be one or two people in there that would probably embrace and say, hey, come on and sit down, you know, or whatever, you're welcome to a meal. But then you have some of the other people who just aren't there yet. And so because of that, I'm glad that we formed our own church called To Care Ministries. And, you know, someone asks, who ordained you? I was called by God, just like who called you? Hell, he didn't pick up the phone and say, hey, how you doing? You know, whatever. I'm ministering from my heart. Now, if I ever get to the point where I need some credentials, I get them off the internet. Like a lot of these reverend doctors I know ain't went to nobody damn school nowhere. I'm going to get on the internet and get me a certificate, but I don't need it.
But not to cut you off, but it might be good that the person ordained them didn't ordain you, because you might be doing the exact same thing that they're doing.
You better say it.
I know that's right. So then, can you ordain us then, Pastor Mike?
Actually, I can. Why you laughing?
But you know what? That's why I asked you.
You know what? You know, one of the epitome of scriptures that we oftentimes read and quote is John 3:16, that God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. And why do we run from the world? Why we are not concerned about the prostitute? Why we're not concerned about the alcoholic? Why we're not concerned about the person that's shooting drugs in their veins? Why we're not concerned about the one that's smoking crack in the pipe? Why we're not concerned about the people that's a lesbian or the homosexual, people that we oftentimes make a frown to that's in the church, but we think that Jesus has come to keep and save the 99, and he wasn't through Jesus that we read about in the scripture that left them in the church and said, I'm going out here to find the lost. And last but not least, Jesus is very much concerned about those people outside, because listen to what he called them. He called them sheep as well. He just said that they were lost sheep. He didn't say the names that we call them, to talk about them, to criticize them. I'm waiting on a rapture so I can escape all the hell that's going on in this earth. No, I want to be here right now because I think that I can make a difference while I'm here.
You better say it. Well, let's shine a light. So we already gave our shout out to Mother's Pantry in the city of Inkster. We thank you, Pastor Overman. We love you so much and appreciate you. And we will be calling, but she offered so much more. You know, she offered to even be a liaison to help us get brick and mortar space inside of the Western Wayne Family Health Center. She advocated her along with Safe Alcinod in the city of Inkster. We're like, hey, I said, we're working out of our trunk. We don't want to transport supplies, blah, blah, blah. What do you need? I told them. Well, first I texted the mayor, and the mayor was like, okay, put me in touch with Safe. Safe was like, I know just the person. This all happened in one day. But he didn't know Pastor Overman and I go way back. We're like buds. We've been to theater together before and a lot of stuff. And so I'm waiting to hear what they're going to say. But you know what? I think they're going to say, come on in and do what you got to do. I really believe that. But there was another pastor that I talked to about this project from its inception. And that's my pastor. Even though you probably think I'm a lost sheep. No, I'm just kidding. Pastor Willis know exactly who I am and how I am. I've been around him for 30 years. He understands if I pick up the phone and call him when I leave here, he's going to answer. We can have that conversation and move on. What did you just write, Mike? We love you, Pastor.
Pastor Overton, we appreciate what she's doing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we do love her. We do love her. She is about that true ministry and what goes on, and she's not scared. I talked to Pastor Willis after I talked to Trisha about this project. I called him and said, Pastor Willis, he told me, he said, Valerie, you're going to have a hard time with this one. He said, a lot of ministers and pastors, they not ready for this. This was last summer when I was pondering the idea. He said, but you know one thing? You built for it. Do what you got to do. And whatever you need me to do, let me know. But see, we're not in Romulus yet. But when we get to Romulus, I guarantee you he'll be right there. He already right there. The people up on what we call the road in Romulus drinking and having a bottle, you will see Pastor Willis right out there with him. Talking to him. Everything. They know him. They be like, what's up? Giving them dap and everything. Everybody in Romulus know Pastor Willis from hook to crook. You know him because he's out there and he's helping. And that's the shepherd that's over me, this lost sheep. But then there's another. Reverend Dr. John Duckworth. We had a conversation with him. Trisha did. First, and he was like, hey, he invited us to come on this Zoom meeting he was having for his church. We presented the concept, and we had a couple of people sign up for our peer recovery coach training. We had a couple of people join our team. Reverend Medley from Gethsemane Missionary Baptist Church is on the call, our team call every Wednesday with us when he can make it, and he's not working. He's there. And Dr. Duckworth embraced the concept and said, I will be right with you, arm in arm, to bring this program to Westland. He already has an addiction ministry, and he's ready to talk to the mayor, the police chief, city council, whoever. He said, I'm down with you because I want this program at my church. So you go ahead and get Inkster together, wow. And then you let me know when you're ready. So I'm telling you, wow. We coming. Mayor Wild, we're going to see how bad you want to stay in that seat, but I think Tasha got a good chance of getting you out of it. But whoever is in the seat, we're coming to talk to you. And we hope that you understand that we just want to help everybody. And we hope if it's any city council people on here that you understand. And if you want to hear the feedback from Chief Riley, the feedback from Councilman Shaw in the City of Inkster, go to the YouTube page, The Real Black Coffee, No Sugar, No Cream. And the town hall meeting is on there where they expressed and confessed everything, why they did this.
That's beautiful.
But right now, let's go to the video of Reverend Dr. John Duckworth from Gethsemane Missionary Baptist Church in Westland, Michigan. And let's hear what he has to say as he was being interviewed by his beautiful sister and my friend, Trisha Duckworth. Roll the clip, please, Marquise.
Talking to Dr. Duckworth from Gethsemane Missionary Baptist Church. Dr. Duckworth, we'll just jump right in. What made you start the addiction ministry at your church, and why do you feel it was necessary?
First of all, if we're going to be a church that is real, we have to be a church that will look among our community. And if there are segments of the community that have been left behind, that's where Jesus begins ministry to me. He said, I came to those that were sick, not to those that were well. And so we all have individuals in our families or in our friends or in our relationships that have been touched by addiction. And so it just made sense to have something to reach out, because people come in and they're struggling. We all are dealing with something when we come to Christ. And it doesn't necessarily just magically go away just because we sign our name and give our tithes and offering. It doesn't happen that way. Oftentimes, it's a long process of recovery and a long process of healing. It can happen instantaneously, but most of the time, that's just not reality. And so we had some individuals that was around the church that was honest and said, hey, Red, this is one of my struggles. It's something I'm dealing with. And so matter of fact, one brother came up to me and said, this is my struggle. And I said, bro, if you hadn't told me, I would have never known, but when people are willing to be open and honest, then I just think at the end of the day, the church has to be an element that reaches out. And I think we've done a bad job of receiving people and have done a better job at deflecting people away. And that's just not so. I think it's imperative that churches that are serious about ministry have ministries that will address those that are addicted inside the church as well as outside the church, because all folks addicted is not outside the church. You have some folks addicted to painkillers and other things that they are addicted to inside the church, and we look at them every week. And if we can only send them to hell, we're not doing ministry.
Wow, you are so right, Pastor. I guess that brings me to the next question. Why did you make the decision to expand the services of the ministry to include the syringe service program? That is definitely a progressive decision as a pastor. Why did you do that?
Well, again, because the world of addiction is a lot stronger than a lot of us like to, and you could take one approach to say, well, you know what, whatever happens to them because they shouldn't be engaged in this stuff anyway. That's an approach, a safe approach that a lot of people take. I just don't think it's an effective approach. That's like saying if you have young people or you have unmarried persons that are engaging in, sex and it's not protected, and you wait, and then if they come down with some disease, STI, HIV/AIDS, and then you chastise them, this is what you get? Or do you just use logic and simply say, hey, this is plan A, which is always the best plan, but if you're not going to follow plan A, then you need to be wise in what you do. I remember when I was in seminary, there was a deacon church I was serving, and he used to always say, Reverend, be good. But then he said, but if you can't be good, be smart. And I never really understood I'm like, what are you trying to say? But what he was basically saying, do the best you can, but if you do find yourself falling, be smart about your fall. And so I just think that I wouldn't want to have to bury someone because they have infected themselves with a dirty syringe. I'm not encouraging them to use a syringe, but if they're going to be engaged in the addiction and at that moment, they're not themselves. And so if there are a safer way for them to, I mean, it's no different than what's happening, with with the opiate and all that other kind of stuff. They're coming out with ways for them to be able to do it safer, and so it was a no-brainer again. The program is ran by those who know what they're doing, and I have no problem pushing back and saying, hey, if this is what you do it. I'll support you from the sidelines because everyone is just not gifted to do everything. People have special gifts and is particularly passionate. Whenever people are passionate about something, my motto has always been, get out the way and let them go with their passion, just give direction and support. And so, yeah, I do realize that a lot of churches would not see it this way and would see as though I'm encouraging this kind of behavior, would be encouraging people to engage in that kind of thing. Not at all. People are doing it anyway. And so we want them to be safe, bottom line.
Yes, wow, that's so profound, your words. I mean, that is exactly true. And it's really meeting the needs of people where they are. I think about the scripture, I became all things to all men, right? Grasping that concept, understanding that in those small acts of kindness and love, that's what leads people to Christ, because they can see that light, not with us judging them and telling them what they should or should not be doing. So, all right. Last question, and thank you so much for your time. Why would you recommend? Now, you've said it in many different ways, but we're going to close in here with, why would you recommend to a pastor to institute this type of ministry at the church? Just talk directly to our pastors.
Well, I think one, as pastors, we have to realize that we don't have all the tools. And if there's any one soul that could be reached or touched because of this program that's reaching people, because really it's another avenue to evangelism. I mean, I'm always looking at what ways can we reach individuals. One thing about this pandemic, it forced many of us, of pastors, to leave our padded pews and carpeted floors. And now we've really discovering what we all about. And unfortunately, if we wasn't about nothing inside, we ain't about nothing outside. But if we were about something inside, then we are something about outside, because now we have a bigger audience. And I think one of the things that can actually happen is that even through a program like this that may seem, a little bit too progressive, a little bit too out there, I'm never going to turn down an opportunity to reach individuals who may be lost. And if this program is dealing with people showing love and care to the person, because the reality is you cannot win someone over to Christ until you win over them to you, as being, you respecting them and seeing them as a person with a soul. And so I just think that I stand a better chance of winning a person to Christ when I have at least made that person feel as though I view them and value them as a person and not an object, but as an actual human being. And so I would recommend to any pastor that if you're serious about ministry, and if you're unsure, because I understand, you may get backlash. And one of the things I've always said, ministry is not for the faint of heart. If you scary, then you just stand in four walls. And right now during this pandemic, I don't know how would that go for you? But at the end of the day, ministry is risky. True ministry is risky. No ministry that has ever made any impact has ever been safe.
Yeah.
You're going to get your head cut off. You're going to be between horses and have them try to divide you in different ways. You're going to be put into kettles of hot boiling oil. Ministry is not safe. but Christ has already given you the guarantee. It is, he said, lo, if you go, I'm with you. Not if you stay. He said, lo, if you go, I'm with you.
Yeah.
And so if you want the covering of Christ, ministry is not safe, it's risky. And at the end of the day, it should always be focused on trying to help someone. If people can be helped, then there's definitely a possibility they can be saved. And so I just think this is another avenue. I remember when I was in seminary and there was a conversation about a bar ministry. And I laughed and I thought that the people that was talking about that stuff was out their mind. I'm like, I know bar ministry, people in the bar. But then someone said, think about it. Why do most people go to bars? And oftentimes the bartender hears more about people's personal lives and they're not trained for that. But people divulge that information. Now, what if we had some Christians strategically placed around the bar that when that person is sharing, they could step in and begin to meet them where they are? We're so concerned about being, in the wrong place. There was never a wrong place for Christ.
Yes.
I don't know whose Bible people read, but there was never a wrong place. Christ, what you doing there? Jesus, what you doing there? Hold on. Woman at the well, you shouldn't be talking to her. Hold on. Just because you in the church don't make you sanctified and holy. Trust me. And just because I was to go to a crack house to try to pull someone out does not make me a crack addict. I mean, I think at the end of the day, we have to be intentional. Now, if you got a drinking problem and all that, then you don't go to the bar. But if that's not an issue and you can understand what goes on in those dynamics, I think it's a wonderful place to be. So that would be my recommendation as to why a person would consider using the SSP program and allowing this program to help the church look at people differently.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Duckworth. You said so much here, but I think what you said also can be exemplified in the ministry of the church prior to COVID. And I think you said that, this is something that I would call Gethsemane a hallmark of being in the community and trying to meet the needs of the people. So we just thank you again for your willingness to partner and to run this program. We're excited about the ordinance being passed. And so we are just ready to go. So thank you so much, Dr. Duckworth. Thank you.
Bless you.
Faith and harm reduction, the true meaning of all God's children. SOAR promotes harm reduction by distributing naloxone and other harm reduction supplies. We do this through peer-led programs, advocating for syringe access expansion, and equitable drug policy reform. We also organize to build power among groups who experience the greatest inequities. The role of faith in substance use treatment ranges from minimal to pervasive. For some, underlying religious principles provide a backdrop for traditional psychological approaches to treatment, such as behavior management and other therapies. In these cases, spiritual principles come to the foreground sporadically. Therefore, the faith community must be prepared to handle an influx of congregants and community members whose reliance upon faith is an integral part of their substance use journey. SOAR's goal is to strengthen support for harm reduction messages, principles, and practices that uphold the divinity and dignity of people who use drugs, and which strengthen spiritual resources, health, and well-being for communities that are being affected by the overdose crisis. Our purpose is to build a network of faith leaders advancing responses to the overdose crisis that are rooted and grounded in compassion, dignity, and justice. Center the leadership and wisdom around people with lived experience, particularly among communities of color. Advocate for spiritual and theological approaches to address the opioid crisis and other harms of radicalized drug policy. Support public policies to expand harm reduction and other community-led health and wellness opportunities for people who use drugs. Challenge the root causes that increase vulnerability to drug-related harm. For God so loved the world and we are mandated to do the same. So what will you give? We're not asking you to give your life. We're asking you to give the same kind of love that you received from God. That same kind of love that saved your life. And even though what we see to our natural eye may appear as bad, we have to understand God's promise to work everything out for our good. Will you join us? Will you see good? Will you stand with us in this faith and harm reduction program? Will we be a church that loves all despite of who they are or what they're involved in? A church that seeks to save the lost and dying? A church that is called to rescue the perishing? A church that believes God loves each one of us so much that he would work towards reducing harm through our lives. If this is you, if this is your church, the Faith and Harm Reduction Program is designed for you. If you want to be a part of this program, please contact SOAR at 734-697-9511 or email strategictransitions@hotmail.com.
You just listened to an excerpt about faith and harm reduction and why Reverend Dr. John Duckworth embraces the concept of a syringe service program and a harm reduction program, and definitely wants that program to operate out of his church, Gethsemane Missionary Baptist Church in Westland. One thing he said a lot. He dropped a lot of nuggets and wisdom, but he said, if you're not about anything on the inside, you won't be about anything on the outside. So therefore, I'm kind of glad, to get the responses that we got, because I think it just would have done more harm than good to have individuals who are not ready or who have stereotypes and stigma or whatever it is. And I'm not saying that these pastors necessarily have that, but they know their congregation, right? But I was just still stunned because most thing, whatever pastor say, the congregation do. So I don't know if it's the pastor didn't want it, so it never went to the congregation, or how that went. But nonetheless, we were blessed with Call to Care Harm Reduction Ministries. Again, it's the last hour of our outreach in the City of Inkster, which is every Wednesday from 4 to 7, from 4 to 6. We still will have music bumping and playing. If it's not raining, you can come by, do the hustle with us. Stop by. You don't even have to be on drugs or anything like that. Stop by and get some Narcan for yourself. I know someone that had knee replacement surgery and had never used street drugs or prescription drugs in an illicit manner, had a knee replacement surgery and overdosed off of the pain pills, and it had to be reversed with Narcan. So come by, get some Narcan. And of course, if you're not feeling the vibe of our participants or anything like that, leave. Just pick it up and leave. Because we want that environment of love and respect and pride and dignity to always exude, and our participants come first before anything. So, you can come and get the Narcan and leave, but you don't even have to be in that environment. We are partnering with the Inkster Task Force. Former Mayor Byron Nolan and Connie Mitchell are heading up the Inkster Task Force, and I've spoke with them, and they want to do an HIV testing event, and a Hep C testing event with us, and also our Narcan drive with us. Nonetheless, though, we had already selected Wednesday as our day for outreach, and they're doing their farmers market on Wednesdays for outreach, but they were even willing to let us use their building, the lot of their building, to do the program. So we have a lot of Inkster love that has embraced this program. So forget the church. You know, I will say one more, Pastor Mario Newell. What is this church called? Reach Up?
I think it's Reach Up.
I don't know, but he definitely said, hey, if I had the space, because right now he's operating out of the recreation complex, but he was on board. So it was a few that if they could, they would. And it was a lot more that could but wouldn't. So, Trisha, any closing words you have to say about stigma and the church?
I would just like to say that I don't think that we consider the damage that we do, or when we treat people, when we judge people, when we act as if we're so far above people. It's damaging. It's damaging. You know, and I know somebody always gets mad when I say stuff, but it was someone who was very influential, an older pastor that I knew growing up, and not my daddy, so y'all don't be going gossiping, okay?
Telling Bishop.
Right. But this man was very strict. I mean, just that harsh religion. And when I grew up and I learned about all his issues, I'll just say, I was mad as hell. What the hell you talking about? Okay? Because I'm like, so you mean he was imposing these rules on folks, but he wasn't living by it himself? Now, here's the disclaimer. My heart goes out to him because as in the work that we do now, he was struggling. He battled with a very, very serious addiction. And, especially back in those times, I mean, the 70s, 80s, not all of that, like it wasn't as relevant, especially coming out in the church with that. That's a no-no, But I got so angry because I'm like, why would they do this? But now understanding the trauma and the things that people go through, sometimes it's easier to maintain an image than to really be honest with yourself about where you are. Like when I became honest about who I was as a person, it was like a sigh of relief. Because I understood that good, bad, or ugly, as long as I'm self-aware, I can work on these things and I can get better every day. But when you don't have that mindset and you're not self-aware, all you'll do is maintain an image, walk around judging people, and you will not be able to serve people to the level that they need to be served. And we miss opportunities when we do that. I told somebody, and I'm going to be quiet after this, but I told somebody from a governmental agency that every person through your door is an opportunity to receive these services. And the plethora of services that they have, there's no reason why people should slip through the cracks with all the things that they have at their fingertips at this agency. But because they won't meet people where they are, that's why they are failing in their numbers. Oh, but if we would just look past what we see on people's surface, if we would look past behaviors, if we would look past actions that we deem so horrible, we could look into the heart of somebody and we could really, really, really help save lives. And this is why, for me, this work with this ministry is such a blessing to be a part of. I do not take it lightly, and I am grateful. I am grateful to the state. I am grateful for SOAR. I'm grateful for your direction, Valerie, to lead us into true help, true ministry through this program.
Well, thank you. I'm just happy to have you by my side. I'm glad that I was built for this work, but also built to be transparent. I'm not afraid to be me. You know, a lot of people might not like, agree with, or understand a lot of things I say and do, but you can't find anybody that does not respect me. I won't say anybody, but I get my respect. See, we've been wearing masks for a long time. COVID wasn't the first time that we walked around in public with masks on our faces. Because of the way we are treated, and you don't even have to be a person that's using drugs and need harm reduction or SSP services. You can be just an average person that doesn't fit into the mold of spirituality or Christianity or church or whatever it is. Then you feel like ousted. You also don't feel like you can go and be transparent in a place where you should be able to say whatever, lay your burdens at the cross or the altar and all of that. That does not happen for real. It might be text out or put out before you leave the service. So we have to watch what we're doing. Well, this was our first extended episode. Those of you on the air might be used to us coming on from 7 to 8. We decided to add an extra hour so we can do some fun stuff like take callers. So we're going to start to take callers and do some other things, but we are going to give one more shout out to my cousin Millard Thomas Jr. in honor of Black Music Month. We're going to listen to a song called Ready for Change, because see, church, are you ready for change? Because you expect other people to be ready for change. This song is more about a person in a relationship that's talking about ready for change, but pastors and churches, you are in relationships with people, and are you ready for change? Social workers and people who work at these governmental agencies, community mental health, DHS, treatment centers or whatever, are you ready for change? Because you are in the position where you're supposed to help people change. But are you ready to turn from your wicked ways? Are you ready to change your behaviors that you know are inappropriate? Are you ready to change? So Marquise, let's run that track, and after that, we're going to get ready to get out of here.
From the moment I met you, something whispered in my ear that you were the one. And I had won by merely becoming a contender for a prize that the world would surely envy. You were more than just beautiful and friendly. Cause see, I instantly wanted you to see the end with me. We were made for an eternity. You reminded me of my mortality, cause at that very second I thought that I would die if you weren't the one God had chosen to love me.
A gift from telling my heart desires, a love romance so fierce with fire. My real revenge supply my needs, yet I was lost but you found me. Perfect is the heart for peace, all my love I guarantee. You and I make unity. Perfect peace is what you bring to me.
Now hold up, I don't give my heart away with ease, but when you walk by I feel a breeze that makes me want to take a chance and open my mind to our romance. Now I know you're not out here playing games. I thought you were tripping when you wrote Imani than your last name. And I admit that, babe, I feel the same. Come through, boo, let's do this thing, yeah.
Downfalls make it worth it, put our pride aside. Against the odds, we survive, leave the past behind. Saw you walking with some friends, took a bold approach. Introduction and kiss your hand, I be doing the most. Confident, still not aggressive. First sight of your smile, in the presence of a blessing. No love in the while, so exchange of our numbers. FaceTime for hours, a few laughs, and now I wonder. One look in your eyes might divide or bring us closer to trust, closer to love. Entangled, thinking married my crush. No pressure until you press it. Now I'm seeing so cold. Black love, everlasting, be our story that's told. This story one day will be told about the love that took my soul and taken full control. I believe my life is gonna change. I'm not feeling the same. I feel something's on the way. I'm ready for change. I'm ready for change. I'm ready for love to fill my heart, yeah. I'm ready for change. I'm ready for change. I'm ready for love to fill my heart, yeah. I'm ready for change. I'm ready for change. I'm ready for love to fill my heart, yeah.
So we were listening to Ready for Change by Millard Thomas Jr., Run-of-the-Mill Productions, in honor of Black Music Month. You know, I just want to say this. You have to experience what we experienced last week to really know what we're talking about. We always say, you know, if you could walk in somebody else's shoes, it was almost like walking in someone else's shoes, being out there. I know it's right because it felt right, but also the way that people openly shared with us, they felt comfortable. We were received. So I know it's what we're supposed to be doing. Trisha, you have any words before we get out of here?
No, just grateful, and we're going to continue to work, continue to advocate for the people who need it most. And if some want to join, great. If you don't, move out the way.
That's right. On that note, you have been listening to Black Coffee, No Sugar, No Cream. Well, I'm not trying to daze you like you had a shot of cheap liquor. I just want you to see things from a different perspective. And tonight, it's the perspective of someone who lives on the street, someone who uses drugs because of the trauma and the pain that they're experiencing, someone who is a sex worker. And of course, I want you to see things from my point of view. We will see you next week. Our new starting time is 6 p.m. We will run from 6 to 8. We will begin to take callers and do some other fun stuff, maybe even have giveaways. So stay tuned. We're out of here. You have a great week. So long.
It's that time, y'all. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. Yeah, it's straight talk with Valerie. Come on, black coffee, no sugar, no cream. Yeah, it's straight talk with Valerie.